Good afternoon, everybody. Brittany Gautreaux, your WBO 2020 co-president, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Gazala Uradnik with GFS Events. Welcome, Gazala.
Thanks, Brittany. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to see you, and I love your virtual background.
Thank you. I have had people ask me about it and say, oh, wow, your office looks so cool. Are you like in a loft in Seattle? It's like, no.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, it does look very fresh and clean and very cool, like a good space to be in.
Yeah.
Virtually, at
Good
least.
virtual space, exactly.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about you because I know that your specialty kind of marries with some of the stuff that WBO has needs for occasionally. So why don't you share with us kind of how you got your business started or why you started your business, and we'll go from there.
Sure, sounds good. So my background, actually, when I first came out of, I have a master's in healthcare administration. So I had always expected to be and continue to be in the healthcare field, in the healthcare arena. And I did do quite a bit of strategic planning and business development for on the hospital side. And hospitals are nonprofits, so that's kind of has a little bit of a connection to what I'm doing now. But over the course of, after having kind of stopped that, I had some time as a stay-at-home mom and some kids. And during that time, I did a little bit of a direct sales business. But one of the other things I did a lot of was I did quite a bit with volunteering for nonprofits. So I served on boards. I was that perpetual volunteer. If someone's like, hey, who wants to plan a gala? Who wants to do a walk or a run? And yeah, exactly. My hand always went up. So I love doing that. And it was interesting because I think the light bulb went off one night as I was working on an auction for an organization. And I remember sitting there thinking, I wonder if I could get paid to do this. And so that light bulb kind of went off that I realized, hey, I'm already doing this. I already love doing this. And I wonder if there's a way to kind of connect, my passion for fundraising and doing events for nonprofits with my own business. And so that's really how that spark of an idea came about. And then I started the company in 2012. And initially it was just me, and we, I did probably 2 or 3 events a year. And 8 years later, we've grown. I have 3 employees that work on events in addition to myself. And then I have also several on-call people who come for day of events. And we do all different types of events for nonprofits. So we don't do weddings or corporate events or anything like that, but what our focus is are galas, fundraisers, walks, runs. We've done golf tournaments, anything that requires a fundraising component for a nonprofit. And so that's been kind of our niche, and that works really well in terms of just focusing on that nonprofit sector.
Awesome. I love that. Well, it's definitely a need in that sector because everybody that is in the nonprofit space typically has a fundraiser or a celebration of some sort on an annual basis. So that's great work to be in. And you kind of answered my question on what's your specialty. Would you like to elaborate on anything else that you specialize in?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I think one of the things that sets us apart, because there are other companies out there that do fundraisers for nonprofits, but I think what sets us apart is that we're not coming in as just your event planning team. We are coming in as your event planning team, but we're also coming in as part of your development team. And that means we are looking at every aspect of your event as a development director would for a nonprofit. So how is your mission being focused for this event? What are things we can do to bring in the right people for the event? How can we raise more money? What are things that we should be talking about during the Raise the Paddle? A lot of strategy goes into that, and that's the kind of stuff that we are really good at and focus a lot on, as well as all of the other elements like the logistics and the fun stuff like the tastings and the, the colors of the tablecloths and things like that. Those are all the fun elements, but to really create a successful fundraiser, it is more about strategy and donors and how to attract your donors to your event.
That makes sense. And I'm assuming then that you partner with probably auctioneers and things of that nature, folks of that nature, that
we do
to put those events on.
We have a whole list of various vendors that we work with, from auctioneers to venues to AV companies, videographers, DJs. It kind of runs the gambit. There's just so many different event vendors out there, so it's kind of cool to have that a pretty strong list. And then we've even got some entertainers on our list as well, because there is that aspect of course, fun and excitement for a nonprofit event. So we've had to work on events where we're either bringing in potentially a big name talent, or perhaps just entertaining the audience with some kind of a performance. So so there's lots of different vendors out there that you probably never even heard of. There's like all these different niches in the event world. So it's kind of fun to have the ability to create and produce an event, because there's just a lot of different pieces to it that I think people don't usually recognize. It's like a production. So we have a script that we create. We have minute by minute what's happening, and making sure people are on stage at the right time, and that the food's being served correctly. So there's a lot of different logistical pieces as well for the day of the event management too.
Okay. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I love that. Well, I am going to throw a random question at you here, but I'm assuming right now, because we're in COVID-19, are you moving a lot of these auctions online?
Yeah. So I will say back in early March, so we had 10 events scheduled for March. Okay. So we were actually doing 10 events in March, and the very first event to cancel was on March 5th. And I remember it canceling. I think we decided to cancel it like March 1st or 2nd. And it was one of those things where it was the very first call of like, hey, this can't go on. We need to move the date. And that one particular event moved to the fall. And then we had another event also on that same date. And they decided it was actually an 800 person event. And they realized there's no way we could put that on. We ended up going virtual with that event. And so that was kind of the first kind of foray into, okay, well, everything's in place, right? Like this event was only 3 or 4 days away. We had everything ready to go, including Doug Baldwin was our keynote speaker. We just had a lot of items in place to make it a successful event. And so we had to just go virtual with that event. And that's what we've been doing with all of our events. So we ended up moving 10 to 12 more events in the spring to virtual. Another whole group of events were rescheduled for the fall, and those were kind of on hold. We're kind of figuring out what does an event look like in the fall. A couple of our clients are just kind of taking a wait and see approach. And a couple are just saying, no, we're going to go virtual. So actually, we've got quite a few virtual events planned for the fall.
Wow.
From everything we're hearing in the event industry, it's unlikely that we could have an in-person event from now until the end of this year. Like, it's just not going to happen. So that's been a real hardship for our nonprofit clients, because they depend on these events to raise really needed dollars. This is how they raise money for their organization, right? So that's been real difficult. But what we're finding is that the online and now virtual events is what we're doing, have actually been very successful. So we've been able to reach anywhere from 80% of the goal to 110% of the goal.
Oh my gosh.
And the costs are less, right? So like your net is actually a little bit higher, because you're not paying for the venue, You're not paying for food. You're not paying for a photographer, a videographer, AV, linen. So there's lots of costs that would normally happen that have been reduced. So, so that actually has been a plus, that sometimes the net can actually be a little bit higher. In fact, our one of our very first and most successful virtual events, they actually netted more this year virtually than they netted last year, because again, we eliminated so much of the cost associated with the event. Not that I'm saying I want to always move to virtual events, because the in-person, there's something to be said for being in person. But it's been really awesome to see that we have been able to be successful for our clients, especially given the circumstances we're all in right now.
Oh my goodness, so true. I will say, I certainly miss in-person events and being able to sit and commune with people. And there is something very different about those experiences. And the online ones are wonderful. And it's amazing that we have the technology to do that. But there's something about sitting at a table with your friends, sharing a night and a cause and all of that. So I look forward to the day we get back to that.
Me too. Me too. I don't think it's going to be in 2020, but we're already trying to plan for events for 2021. We have several contracts already for 2021. So I'm just kind of crossing my fingers that the ones for next spring are going to be able to be in person, because I think it would be, honestly, it's an interesting thing to know also the difference between what's happening in the spring and what's going to happen in the fall. Because what we found this spring is people are eager, and even though there was a lot of layoffs, obviously a lot of furloughs, and people are of course experiencing lots of hardships, there was also a group, just a set of people who wanted to do something, who want to, like, I'm sitting at home, I still have my job, and I can't do anything positive, so I'm going to donate to this online fundraiser. And so that was kind of helpful to know. Hey, we were able to tap into the desire for people to help. And we're wondering what that's going to translate like to in the fall, as people continue to stay home potentially. Perhaps there are some more layoffs. And so what will that look like for some fundraising in the fall? What will that actually mean? Will we see those same kind of returns from like 70% to 80% all the way up to 110%, or will there be a little bit of a drop off in fundraising? So that's still, we're still kind of figuring that out.
Yeah, I hear you there. It's really going to be an interesting like 18 to 24 months from when this started, because so much has changed.
Yeah.
So much is going to have to stay to some semblance of what we're in now. And coming together is going to be a really difficult thing for a while, because you see, any type of gathering that we've seen, or different places opening, certain surges in COVID cases. So I hear you there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about the timing. At what point does somebody need to be thinking about bringing you on board? What are some of the things that they can be aware of when they're thinking that, hey,
and I'll kind of talk a little bit more about the in-person, just because obviously we'll eventually get back to in-person events.
Yes, we will.
But to be honest, I don't think the timing changes much whether you're in person or virtual. So we had to really, really move quickly in the spring for some of these events. The events that were taking place, again, all this happened mid-March. We had all these events scheduled in March, so we moved them out. Some of them we went ahead and rescheduled, and we just went forward with. So typically, the best time to connect with us is anywhere from 6 to 8 months before your event. Okay. So that's when we come together with the client. We understand their goals. We know what their budget looks like. We know what their fundraising goals look like. We set together a timeline. We prepare a plan, and then we work consistently for the next 6 to 8 months on that plan. So sometimes clients come to us and they've got everything already kind of set. They're like, I already have my venue, my auctioneer. I've got, this is what we did last year. We kind of want to hit repeat. And that's happened before too. And for some of those kinds of events, we don't necessarily need the full 6 to 8 months. It might be closer to like 4 or 5 months. But to really help a nonprofit kind of reach their goals, the more time we have to work with them and plan with them, the better. So for clients that we have, and I'm feel really, really lucky that we had such great clients over the course of several years, and we do have repeats. So we've worked with some clients, I've been in business for 8 years, for 7 years in a row. So
wow,
it's wonderful to kind of see, and usually the event ends, and then probably 3 or 4 months later, they're reaching back out to us saying, okay, we're booking for next year already. And so we already have an event booked for fall of, several events for fall of 2021. And then actually our very first event for fall of 2022. So,
oh my gosh, wow.
yeah, so we won't, of course, start those contracts until obviously till we get a little bit closer, but we usually do reserve pretty far out, because obviously, the Saturdays in both the spring and the fall are really, really popular. So we try and get those booked as quickly as possible.
That makes sense. I love that. Awesome. Well, I love what you do, and I find it fascinating, and it's always been an industry that I have found interesting and fun. Is there maybe a piece of advice or some wisdom you might share with our members?
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I knew you were going to ask that question. It's been so hard as you talk about the kind of the event world and the event industry.
Mm-hmm.
So many of my colleagues who are, vendors, auctioneers, companies that do AV, their businesses have been kind of honestly a little decimated. I mean, there's no events happening, right? So you can't be the AV vendor when there is no event to do that at,
Right.
let alone auctioneers and things like that. And that's just it was a really hard I think reality. And I know a lot of people understand, like obviously restaurants have really gone through a tough time, but I don't think anyone kind of understood about the event world, because especially for weddings and things like that, it's just been really tough. So I think just really the best advice is just to keep going, keep hanging in there. And when this first happened, I was really concerned for my staff. I was like, I think we're going to have to either do a layoff or figure something else out. And it was just really it was really inspiring to see, the nonprofits were like, no, we still want to work with you. We still want to do this. And so I've seen a couple of our other vendor partners also pivot and just do those same kind of things. We've seen some companies who do rentals move away from the beautiful chairs and linens to creating potentially spaces for restaurants, having like guards so that people can sit and get a table next to someone else and still be protected.
Yeah.
We've seen some of the virtual fun things that are happening with events, and then even entertainment virtually. So there's just a lot of, I think, just kind of the creativity in the event world kind of has come through. And that I think that can translate to any business, is that if your business has been stalled, if there is something you're just like, I can't do anything right now, maybe just kind of taking a step back and being a little bit more creative and figuring out, well, what can we do? How do I turn my business to be able to still help my clients in some way? So I think that's probably the best advice, is just think outside the box, be creative, and hang in there, because we will get back to maybe not normal, but a new normal soon.
Exactly. I love that. Keep the positivity. And, we're 3 months in at this point, and that is one of the biggest things. We have to just keep focusing. But then I love what you said, thinking outside the box, doing brain dumps maybe occasionally, and just going, okay, what ideas can I come up with? And just jot them down.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Gazala, where can we find you? How do we find you on the interwebs?
So we are on pretty much every social media channel. GFS Events is on LinkedIn. You can follow us there. GFS Events is on Facebook and Instagram. So follow us on both of those handles if you have that. And then also our website is gfsevents.org. And that one is also, our website is great to just kind of check out our portfolio, to see all the different types of events we've done. Take a look at some of the, the things that we have created in the past, and also what we're doing now with virtual events. So I welcome anyone to connect also via the website or any of those other social media channels, and just kind of even have a one-to-one and just, learn more about, because we always are looking for volunteers. There's lots of people who have reached out to me to say, hey, I love going to a gala. Can I volunteer? So there's lots of opportunities to kind of help out if you want to be involved, but aren't sure how or what to do.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Well, definitely go check her out, everybody, and give a like to all of her social media handles, because we are here to support one another. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Gazala. It was really fun to get to know more about your business and what you're up to.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it.
Yeah.